Alrighty, so I've just got back from work for the first time in almost 2 weeks, and I'm not gonna lie, going back to work for the first time in a while, it was not easy whatsoever. I mean, it was really tough for me to go from 2 weeks of pretty much doing nothing, or in my case, is recovering from COVID, and then also just did nothing after when my symptoms go away, to basically back to the grind of working. And as much as I don't want to, of course, work after such a long break. I kind of had to because that's how life works. Where you need to, of course, work so you can pay the bills. And even though there are times where you're going to get some vacation time and maybe a week where you don't have to go to work, also known as pay time off, you always have to go back to work. And that first day back from work after a long break is usually the toughest, in my opinion. But that being said, today we are going to once again continue what I talked about yesterday, where I'm going to take a look at each team and maybe a hole that each of these teams have for this upcoming season. Yesterday I talked about the Western Conference. Today I'm going to talk about the Eastern Conference and look at all these Eastern Conference teams and what is one roster hole that they might have for this upcoming season. And we're once again going to go alphabetical order and start with Atlanta United. And for Atlanta, it's pretty much the depth in the forward position, and you could also say that they need some more depth in terms of the back line too, because they did lose some key pieces in the back line this off season. But obviously, the biggest question for this team coming into this season is that they need someone that can still be a quality player to back up Joseph Martinez. I mean, right now it still feels like this team is Joseph or bust going for on the attack, and especially in that number 9 position. And I know recently they have tried to maybe sign Dom Dwyer after he, of course, went on trial with Atlanta. And if he does sign with the team, I mean, I guess it's a good signing. I mean, Dom Dwyer, he definitely is not the same player that we saw a couple of years ago, but at least he's kind of maybe a good filler gap kind of option for a team that desperately needs some depth in terms of forward position, and hope that there is a second option in case if Joseph Martinez would go down with an injury, or just kind of reduce his workload throughout the entire part of the season. Now, for Charlotte FC, and I know for Charlotte, I talked about before how their head coach talk about how they are really screwed because of the roster, and I even made a video talk about how whether or not indeed they are going to be screw heading for this upcoming season. Well, again, it depends on how you look at it. I think the screw part of the Charlotte FC team is definitely going forward on the attack, but especially in the winger position. Like, there is literally no MLS quality wingers on this team. I mean, I think there's only like 2 wingers on the roster right now. That is clearly not enough for a team that is still trying to build a full roster. So yeah, the winger position is definitely one area that they desperately needed. But like what their head coach is saying, there's still other areas that they need to address, and especially the depth of this team. It is still a very thin squad. Like, they only have filled up 16 of the 24 senior roster spot, and ever since Miguel Angel Ramirez talked about how they are screwed, they haven't really made any signing whatsoever. I mean, I know he also said that there's still 2 weeks to get this right, and I was assuming maybe Charlotte is going to make some emergency signing by signing a bunch of guys within this 2 weeks. But we are now already a couple of days past ever since Miguel Angel Ramirez says that they're screwed, and they still have not made any signings. So it seems like, unless if they're going to really make a lot of signing these next couple of days, or even heading into next week, which is the week leading up to the first game of the season, this team maybe indeed is screwed going for on the attacking front, and especially in the winger spot. Chicago, it's the defense. So they definitely make some big pieces or sign some big pieces this off season by bringing Shakir and also bringing Shabilko from the Philadelphia Union. But one thing that they didn't really address this off season that maybe they probably should have done this off season too is the defense. I mean, I still have a lot of question in terms of this back line. I mean, yes, they do have one of the more talented goalkeeper in Gaga Solina in goal, but you know he can only do so much if the backline don't just kind of let him down. And yeah, I mean this backline I just think is going to hold back this team in terms of trying to be a playoff contender, and especially the fact that this backline is also the same one last season that multiple times made some of the most boneheaded play that repeatedly cost this team victories. And yeah, I think this is something that they're going to have to address either for this upcoming season or in the summer transfer window, because I have a feeling this backline is not going to be very good. And again, you can have a good decent attack as what the Chicago Fire team would have, but if you do not have a good defense, you're not going to go very far in this league. FC Cincinnati. I guess I would say the same thing with their defense, but honestly, this team, there is still a lot of things this team needs to fill. Like, the only spot I can say this Cincinnati team is at least pretty good at is the number 10 position. You know, they do have a good playmaker in Lucho Acosta, who I think he is the heart and soul of this team and the most important player of this team. And then they also might have figured out going forward on the attack. You know, they're hoping Brenner is going to not only have another decent season, but a much improved one compared to his first season, where his first season was a little bit underwhelming, even with the number set that he's actually had an okay season for a number 9. But you know, there's question about the midfield of this team. There's question about the defense in this team. The goalkeeping is actually another area that they might have figured out, because I do believe Alec Khan is going to do well with this team. I mean, he might not be considered a top 5 goalkeeper in this league, but he's definitely a starting quality goalkeeper, which is something that FC Cincinnati desperately needed in terms of the goalkeeping, because their last couple of goalkeeper in Titan and Vermeer has been an absolute howler, and I'm pretty sure Alcon will definitely improve on that. But it's also the fact that they need to improve the defense too, where, you know, it's not just the goalkeeping that was a big issue last season. The defense was just absolutely horrendous last year, and again, they didn't really address it this off season, and in fact, they didn't really make any signings this off season besides, you know, announcing a new ownership and a new GM and new head coach into this team, and almost kind of copying the Philadelphia Union method now to trying to get themselves not win the wooden spoon for the 4th year in a row. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of question about this team, but the defense is probably one of the areas that they desperately need to address in the future. For Columbus, I guess you would say it's the defense again, but I'm going to go with the fullback, and especially the depth in the fullback position. I mean, after losing 2 of their starting fullback in Harrison Offal and Milton Valenzuela this offseason, you know, they really are very fit in terms of that fullback spot. I mean, I'm pretty sure Maria is going to be one of the guys that's gonna at least replace one of those fullback that they lost this offseason. But after that, there's a big question of who can also step into it, and not to mention, you know, the depth of this fullback position for this team is just incredibly shallow. So that's going to be one area I think Columbus is going to have, and that's kind of also interesting to say that, you know, this Crew team we talk about many times that they have incredible depth in their terms of their team, and they do. I mean, they're kind of too deep in pretty much every position except in the fullback position, and maybe you could argue in the defensive department too. So again, that's going to be one hole that let's see if they can maybe address heading into this season. But now moving on to DC United, I want to say the number 10 position. Actually, you know, I'm just gonna say the attack in general. Again, they lost a lot of pieces this off season in the attack. Well, actually, not a lot of pieces, but they lost a lot of important pieces this off season. In the likes of Kevin Paredes in the midfield, losing him to Wolfsburg. Though that's a good thing to do, because they actually sell him for a big sum of money, and they're following a footstep of what every MLS team should do when they develop their homegrown talent and eventually sell them off for a big amount of money. But obviously they also lost Paul Arriola to FC Dallas, and you know, there's also so a lot of rumor that Ola Kamara could be moving on from this team. Now, they of course do have a replacement in him, and oh god, I forgot what was his name, but it's the striker that came out of Toluca. I think it's Michael Estrada. I think that was his name. He of course is going to be coming into this team, and there's a lot of question whether or not if he can be a good goal scoring number 9 for this team, and they better hope that he is because they signed him on a deep P contract. But either way, I just feel like this attack from DC looked very underwhelming, and for a team under Hernan Losada that really wants to emphasize on the attack and especially are trying to play that high octane kind of style. I mean, I don't think this attack is going to do so, and hence this could maybe be one of the downfall for this DC United team, and especially for Hernan Losada trying to run a system when he still does not have the players to do so. For Inter Miami, again, this is another tough one, not because of the fact that I don't have a certain hole that I think Inter Miami has, but it's mainly because they also have a lot of holes too. So I guess I'll go with the number 10 position for now. I mean, again, this team is right now rebuilding, so there's always going to be a lot of question and a lot of holes that they need to fill up. But I'll go with the most important part of the field as one of the biggest holes, and that of course is that number 10 position. I mean, they really have not had a number 10 in this team, even when they came into the league. I mean, they were hoping Pizarro was going to be that piece, and yeah, it turns out he was not that piece. And I actually really thought that was probably not gonna work out, because again, with Rodolfo Pizarro, I really think he's not a number 10. He's more effective if he plays in that number 8 in a deep line kind of role. But the fact that at times they throw him in the number 10 position, and then obviously last season he was in the doghouse of Phil Neville and eventually kind of forced him to go back to Liga MX. It seems like Inter Miami is once again searching for that number 10 in this team, and a guy that will give the service to Higuain going forward on the attack. So yeah, that's kind of the one area that they're definitely going to look at this upcoming season, though I don't know if they will have enough money to do so, because like I said, this year, it's not only just a rebuilding year for this Inter Miami team and clean up all the mess that they made when they built this original squad just 2 years ago, but also enduring on the punishment of the rule that they broke a couple years ago. That you guys probably know by now what that rule that they broke a couple years was all about. Montreal. I'm gonna still say goalkeeping, and this is despite the fact that I've talked about yesterday. I thought Sebastian Briza might have just locked himself the starting goalkeeping spot yesterday after that incredible performance he had against Santos Laguna. But again, I don't know whether or not if that was just one good performance that Briza can have, or whether or not if he can continue to have that decent performance. I mean, right now there is still question of who exactly is going to be the right choice for Wilfried Nancy going forward in terms of the goalkeeping position, and I won't be surprised if Nancy will once again maybe kind of switch around, and maybe some games he'll put Briza there and some game he'll put Pantemis there. But overall, this Montreal team, they're pretty much good in terms of their entire roster. I mean, I guess maybe the other thing that I might be a little concerned with this team is going for on the attack, because they kind of look a little bit lackluster yesterday going for on the attack, and also especially in the midfield too, where we talk about how this team tends to be too deep in every position, but after yesterday's performance against Santos, they kind of started to look like the Columbus Crew, where maybe they're not as deep as what we thought it is. But I'm not gonna just immediately draw that as a conclusion, because again, it's just one game, and they were playing for the first time in a couple of months, and when you're a team that is just still in preseason mode, this is why I've said before, where it's so tough for MLS team to go deep into this tournament, because a lot of them are still in preseason form and are not really up to the task against these Liga MX team, especially in the opening round of the CONCACAF Champions League. New England. So for the Ravs, I'm gonna say goalkeeping for the Ravs. That might be a concern. And this is not because of the fact that they don't have a good goalkeeper in Matt Turner, but it's because of the fact that Matt Turner is going to be leaving this team soon. He is going to be leaving this team in the summer to go to Arsenal, and while they do have some decent option in terms of the backup goalkeeping position in Brad Knighton, I'm not quite sure whether or not if he is going to be good enough for to start a team that has definitely have a lot of MLS Cup aspiration, especially some of the moves that they made, and it seems like Bruce Arena is trying to reclaim the 2017 U.S. Men's National Team with some of his recent move that he has made. But yeah, I think that's going to be an area that's going to be interesting to see, especially in the summertime when Matt Turner does move on. Will the Revs decide to stay with Brad Knighton, or maybe go with another decent quality goalkeeper for this during the summer transfer window, or maybe even bring in a decent goalkeeper from somewhere else, so that they don't lose that quality in terms of the goalkeeping once Matt Turner leave for Arsenal in the summer transfer window. NYCFC. This is kind of a tough one, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be the forward position. And I know I've said before that they do have some good talent in the forward position. I've mentioned before guys like Santi Rodriguez and Taos Magno. Those are definitely two guys to watch out for that can definitely fill in the holes that Tati Castellanos is going to leave. But I think after yesterday, when you saw in their game against Santo Guapales, this is still a team that heavily relies on Tati Castellanos. And while it seems like they most likely is going to keep Tati at least until the summer transfer window, I don't see him staying with this NYCFC team for the entire season. And that, again, you hope that maybe guys like Santi Rodriguez and Taos Magno can step up, but we'll see whether or not if that is going to be the case. For the New York Red Bulls, again, it's the same as their intercity rival, though. Unlike their intercity rival, where NYCFC at least have that luxury of having some good young talent that can play in that number 9 position, the Red Bulls does not have that luxury. Like, I guess maybe I know that Patrick Klamala is going to be their number 9 for next season, and I don't know if he continue the form that he had in the first season, which was okay in my standard. Not really a guy that I thought was a game changer. And the fact that this offseason they haven't really addressed in terms of who is going to be the main goal scorer, when this was the biggest problem for this team last season. Again, I feel like they really, if they want to once again be a playoff contender and keep that playoff streak alive, they really need to think about getting a guy in terms of the forward position, and not just keep signing midfielder like they have recently signed Lakinas from Poland. I mean, getting him, it definitely can help the depth in terms of the midfield that this team has, but going forward, the biggest issue of this team is still in terms of the goal scoring department, and especially the lack of goals scored, especially in that number 9 position, is going to be a bit of a concern for this Red Bulls team. But now moving on to Orlando City, I guess it's the depth in terms of the fullback position, and also in the back line. I mean, again, this is another team where it's a relatively decent team that will definitely maybe be a top 4 kind of finisher in the Eastern Conference this season. But I feel like Orlando, there's maybe one thing there's still lack of is the fullback position, because when you look at the depth chart in terms of the fullback position, they don't really have a lot of decent fullbacks besides having Juan on one side and Jean Matinho on the other side. And the same can said about the back line too, where maybe if they can get like one more center back or another center back there, then they could be too deep pretty much in every single position. But other than that, this team does not have a hole to fill, in pretty much every position that they have. It is an MLS Cup kind of contender quality of a starting 11 that they could field. But now moving on to the Philadelphia Union, and this is another team that is really tough for me to kind of think of any holes that they have. I mean, for me, I'm actually going to say non-associate because I can't think of any holes that this team really has. I mean, I guess maybe you could say the striker position, but then they've just recently signed a DP striker in Michael Aru, who I've said that I think he's going to be a 10-plus goal scorer in this league. And, you know, even though they lost Jamero Montero to the Quakes for only pennies to the dime, they already have a lot of number 10 in their position, and in some way this was just a good way for them to kind of solve the good problem that they had, where they just have too many good quality number 10 and not enough for minutes for them to kind of fill out all these good number 10 in their starting 11. So yeah, again, I think there isn't really any holes that I can think of this Philadelphia Union team that makes me think that they need to make some signings to address that hole. I mean, the only area again is the forward position that I can think of, but like I said, you know, I think Michael Aru is going to be much better there than what Shibilko is after they lost him to the Chicago Fire this offseason. And yeah, now moving on to Toronto FC, it's the goalkeeping. So the goalkeeping is the big question for this team, and I feel like it's not talked enough for this TFC team. I mean, everybody talked about this TFC team in terms of the attack and the defense, but goalkeeping is one area that I do have concern, especially, you know, is it going to be Westberg or is it going to be Bono in as the starting goalkeeper? And neither of them performed relatively well last season. And, you know, if this is a team that is looking to get themselves back to be an MLS Cup contender, they need to have a good goalkeeper. And especially, you know, if either one of those that, you know, during the golden age of TFC a couple of years ago, when they were an MLS Cup contender pretty much every single year, we know that both of these goalkeepers, either Bono or Westbrook, was at the top of their game. And if they can maybe get either of those goalkeepers to kind of get themselves back into the form that they were a couple of years ago, then maybe that's not going to be an issue. But as of now, it is an issue because both of these goalkeepers did not have a good season last year with this TFC team, and I thought this was maybe one area that this TFC team might even think about addressing, besides the numerous issue that they kind of feel like they finally address this offseason, and is set to trying to get this team back to be a playoff contender and maybe even an MLS Cup contender out of the Eastern Conference. But either way, that is pretty much it in terms of talk about each team's that has a specific roster hole that might need to be filled as we head into the upcoming season. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and as always, let me know in the comments below what's your team in terms of your team's roster hole that needs to be filled heading into this upcoming season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.